would have fallen off
Or
the server.
past its retention, and
How convenient.
Objection form, no sidebar comments.
Or what?
Objection, sidebar comments. They get stricken from the record. I have to make the objection.
Things get stricken off the record sometimes whether you object or not.
Objection form.
Tell me about whose mistake it was that Officer Moxley's recordings were misclassified.
that would be something to ask Officer Moxley. The information that I received as far as the misclassification came from an internal affairs investigator who, when the initial complaint was taken, tried to research that video.
What's the name of the internal affairs investigator? Would that be the lady from the police monitor?
Sergeant,
Objection form.
Sergeant James Boujma.
Can you spell Boujma?
I'm sure going to try. B-O-U-J-M-A.
Okay.
I mean, I can get the exact spelling, I just don't have it in front of me.
No problem. Okay. What was Sergeant James Boujma's role in the investigation?
It's my understanding that when the complaint was received and was assigned to him, being an investigator in internal affairs, he conducted some research on the complaint regarding what video was or was not available, and then passed that information on to the chain of command for further follow-up to try and ascertain any other information that could be gathered related to that complaint.
So it turns out a very important video turned out to be erased.
Objection form.
Is that correct?
Yes, my understanding that the video has been dropped or erased.
If that had been dropped or erased intentionally, that would be spoliation of evidence, wouldn't it?
Objection form.
What's your basis?
He doesn't know what a spoliation of evidence is. That's a legal term.
Okay.
And you're asking him something that's outside his personal knowledge, which is speculation. Objection form. That's my basis.
Okay. You can still answer.
Could
You know,
repeat the
have you ever
question?
heard of spoliation of evidence?
Could you repeat the question?
If the video had been intentionally misclassified, or if there was something on the video that caused the department, the initial internal investigator that looked at the videos, it was, if he had intentionally misclassified that, or for whatever reason felt it was taking the lesser of the two evils, if that video had been intentionally misplaced, deleted, misidentified, misclassified, anything intentional would be a crime, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
Objection form.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any indication that that occurred?
No, I do not.
Do you have any suspicion that that may have occurred?
No, I do not.
If it had occurred, would it be that fox guarding the chickens to investigate it?
Objection form.
Had that occurred, it would have been sent back to internal affairs for investigation.
And internal affairs is part of the police department, right?
Yes.
The only check and balance to police officers violations of either the police department rules and regs or violations of the law is a organization called the Police Monitor, correct? Is that the check and balance, the independent organization that reviews police activities?
Objection form.
Police Monitor's office and the Citizens Review Panel.
Did this make it to the Citizens Review Panel?
Objection form.
To my knowledge, no.
Is that a whole nother avenue that Goldie can take in regard to complaining?
I wouldn't have that.
I've never heard of the
Knowledge.
Citizens Review Committee. What do you know about the Citizens Review Committee?
Just in general, exactly the term, a citizen of, or a panel of citizens that review cases that either come through internal affairs or the police monitor's office, giving the opportunity to this panel of citizens to make recommendations.
So it starts with an internal review. That part of that internal review was actually assigned to yourself, correct?
A part of it, yes.
Okay. And then the internal review are police officers investigating other police officers, i.e. internal,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And then there's the police monitor, which is a second mechanism for identifying and, I'm guessing, prosecuting any violations as if there were any violations, correct? The police monitor is the second type of monitoring?
Yes.
Objection form.
Okay, so the internal review, one independent, police monitor, another independent, and then the Citizens Review Committee, which I've just learned about. So that's 3 different procedures that complaints.
And it's my understanding a citizens review panel is after the fact, after the case has been disposed of, whether punishment was or was not handed down, it gives the citizens an opportunity to review the case and make recommendations of what they feel, you know.
Do all complaints end up with the Citizens Review Committee, or is that something that is a third leg that has its own procedures?
Objection form.
I don't know.
I don't know the process completely.
But from your understanding, in terms of Goldie's accident with you, it has been through an internal review. And there's been a conclusion to the internal review.
Relating to the collision or the complaint?
Either one, but the complaint, I understand collisions don't have necessarily a police monitor aspect of things, but a complaint would.
Yes.
And so, as far as the complaint, which, as far as Goldie's concerned, also includes the collision, but
Sure.
I understand there's 2 different
Sure.
aspects to this. But both Goldie's collision, which I guess is also part of the review of the defense attorney here,
Objection form.
but, and I may be wrong on that, she probably has no control over it. But in the event that she
Objection
does,
form.
we have the internal review that you have explained, and from my understanding, that has come to a conclusion, or is it still in the process?
I don't know what stage it's in. I can only...
How would one find out without asking her?
You interrupted him again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would be a question for internal affairs.
Okay. And they don't return my calls. Do you know why?
I do not.
Objection form.
I can only testify that what I observed reviewing the videos and what I submitted in a memo went back to internal affairs, and I do not know where it stands at this point.
Will you at least admit that you are a biased party to a report having to do with an accident involving you backing up into somebody?
Objection form.
No.
It's about as biased as you can get, wouldn't you say? I mean, you're the person that caused that was involved in the accident.
Scott, are you talking about the complaint or you're talking about the accident? Because the complaint was a different matter than the accident.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, that's why I'm making an objection. It's not clear and you're mischaracterizing the testimony.
Okay. Please clarify my confusion in regard to your involvement in any reporting.
Had I been involved in the investigation of the collision itself, yes, I would perceive that to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict of interest, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
The issue with the complaint regarding the conduct of one of the officers on scene,
That your lieutenant assigned you to investigate.
separate from the collision.
Scott, please don't insert answers to his testimony. He needs to be able to say his testimony without you interrupting or inserting words for
I'm going to
him.
insert words when I find it's necessary to clarify, if you don't mind. And you
No,
can,
you
you're
can't. That's
yeah, I
an
can.
objection.
Okay, and you can
That's
object,
interrupting.
and that's all you can do is object. That's all you can say is
All right.
objection form.
Objection.
So stick with that, and we're good.
But that's not really objection
no,
form
no,
of
no,
question.
nothing more than objection form, Ms.
Scott,
Gadsden.
don't tell me what I need
I'm
to
going
do
to tell
or
you
what
what
I can't
I
do.
am going to tell you what
I'm
you
trying
do.
to tell you
I'm
right now.
I'm telling you.
Let
you-
him finish. Don't
you-
insert words into his testimony.
That's
That's
fine.
my objection. And that's
Okay.
not an objection form.
Okay.
That is another form of objection of you not following the rules.
No, ma'am. You need to
May you
say
please go ahead and
objection
continue
form
answering.
and not use a sermon with it. Don't talk about me not following the rules. I'm simply asking him.
May we go off the record for
No,
just a
we
moment,
can't
please?
go with her. It's my deposition. Finish your answer
Okay, thank you.
that I so rudely interrupted.
So the collision aspect, yes, that would be a conflict
Sure,
of interest.
okay.
Should I be involved in that investigation?
Mhm.
The separate, or the complaint that I was handed down
Mhm.
was in reference to a conduct issue
Mhm.
that was perceived by one of the officers on scene, which was separate from the collision, which is what I looked at.
But it was a result of your accident, right?
Objection form.
The complaint having to do with being bribed by a cop was in relation to the accident that you caused. So why would you be involved? Don't you still have a conflict of interest to be investigating anything, whether it be the accident itself or the bribe to have her drive away to relieve you of liability?
Objection form.
That still seems to be a conflict of interest, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Objection
What's your
form.
basis?
You're testifying.
No, I'm not.
And
That
you're
was a
arguing
question.
with the witness.
No, ma'am. That is not testifying. I asked him a question. You may not like the question. You may not like me. I don't care. I'm going to ask him a question, and you're not going to give me a sermon as to what I'm doing wrong. Okay? Just objection form, preserve your objection, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, Ms. Gaddison? Or, I'm sorry, Ms. German? Gerben.
I don't agree with you.
I don't care.
But I
Answer
am
the question, sir.
objection form.
Good.
And when you ask me my basis, I'm going to tell you.
Just
no,
be,
Scott.
just be quiet.
No,
please.
I'm not going to.
You're
and
gonna be
actually,
quiet.
you cannot tell me what to do.
Oh,
but
you
Scott,
can't tell me what to do either.
all right, Scott. First of all, when you ask me a basis, I'm going to tell you the basis. Okay? If you don't want me to tell the basis, do not ask me. Okay? Go ahead.
Okay, so I think we addressed the collision side of it.
Yeah.
The,
Your conflict of interest.
okay, regarding the
Invest-
complaint regarding the conduct of one of the officers on scene.
That's right.
Was in relation to a question or comment that was made to Ms. Gaddison that offended her. That was not an investigation into tying it into a collision where a bribe was made, because I have not heard anything of that nature.
Interesting. Well, somehow the complaint got mixed up because the complaint, from my understanding, may have included a racial slur, but I understand the complaint being in particular that an officer offered Goldie a free ride on her warrants. That may have been a surprise to him, but she didn't have any warrants. But part of your investigation of the complaint that you were handed down had nothing to do with an alleged bribe by Officer Barger?
No?
It was just a racial slur that comprised the complaint that you were assigned to investigate?
Objection form.
To my knowledge, it wasn't a racial slur. It was a question of if she had any outstanding warrants.
And what you understand her complaint to be, regardless of what your conclusion is.
Objection
What do you
form.
understand her complaint to have been?
That the officer was asking if she had warrants based on due to the race.